on this. There we go. And we'll just go ahead and start recording. All right. Hey guys, this is Alex, and I am here today with Ben.
What's up?
From
Glad
Superhero
to be
Stuff.
here.
Yep. Superhero Stuff You Should Know. It's been a while. It's been a few months.
Yeah, we've been wanting to do this for a while. It's just been a little packed, and May was a crazy month. So I kind of had wanted to do it by the time we get to the anniversary. We're a little late on that, but we made it. We're here
now. We made it. Never thought we'd get here, but we're here. But yeah, I guess I know you guys recently have been covering the Batman and Robin and Batman Returns and all that kind of stuff recently.
Yeah, 90s Batman has been our main audience over at Superhero Stuff You Should Know, primarily 89, but even the Schumacher stuff usually gets some good views, and there's stuff to explore every single time. We're just like, what more could we possibly go into it? And then like there's something else that comes up, and we're like, you know what, we should probably explore that.
Right. But yeah, we're here today to actually do something we've never done before, other than me doing a commentary on this. We're going to talk for 2 full hours and see if we can actually fill all that time. We're talk about Batman Forever, and I'm gonna have a lot of hot takes for this, so just get ready, I guess.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Yep, got my little official paper right here.
All right.
Yeah. So.
Very good takes. So I guess we're going to do it where we'll coordinate hitting play on HBO Max.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. I already got it pulled up.
All right. So it's really hard to like rewind and try to line it up with the streaming stuff. I've noticed.
Yeah. I figured that. I mean, you're gonna get hit by severe copyright stuff. We actually have it as part of the video, so we're just gonna for anybody watching this, you put this in the background while you're watching the movie. We will not be showing the movie.
Yeah, it's funny, but just before we start, I did on I've told you about my old channel before, right? There was a commentary I did, and I guess this was before people started doing like fan commentaries of things, or it wasn't as much of a thing. And speaking of having the actual video there, I remember getting a comment or a few comments being like, I think it was for Mask of the Phantasm, and people just being like, what is this? There's not even the video up here. What's going on?
It's not even if it's a reaction channel, you wouldn't show the whole thing.
Yeah. I was just like,
unless it's like a trailer.
What do you guys want?
Yeah.
But yeah,
well,
yeah, it is what it is. The internet's a center of negativity, I guess.
Always. Yeah.
To get in the mood for it, I already told you about it. I got my official McDonald's. Hopefully I won't get sued by them either for this, but
I think it's been a while for them. So there's the Batman one, and I got the Riddler.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I got the whole set.
Sweet.
Yeah, my stepmom, actually, not stepmom, sorry, my mother-in-law actually got it for me one day. It was like at one of those antique places. So
that's a wonderful gift. I had the Riddler one growing up, and then someone else is like, I got a gift for you. It's the McDonald's thing. It was another Riddler. So I've never had any of the others. I only have 2 Riddlers.
I had the Batman one growing up. That was the main one I had, which is really all you need.
Yeah, sadly I don't have it. Also, there's a big size difference too. The Batman one is like tall, and this is like very short and stout for the Riddler.
I noticed that. I had the one with I think the Two-Face one where it has like the little coins as like the handle for it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe I'll do like a reveal video one of these days. Who knows? But anyway, what you guys came for, the Batman Forever commentary. So how this is going to work, I'm sure you guys, if you haven't, this will be your first time, but we've got it lined up to 000. So whenever I hit, I know there's going to be a delay, so we'll figure this out. But whenever I say 1, 2, 3, go, we'll just start the movie, and then you can either listen along with us, or you can just have it on the background when you're working out, at work, whatever. But we'll try to provide enough context to where you can still enjoy it theoretically without even watching the movie itself. So
yeah,
but yeah,
sounds good.
Go. Yep,
cool.
3, 2, 1. I'm gonna allow a little bit of time for the delay, and go.
we go.
Oh, mine do it. There we go. Okay, good. I was a little worried.
You got that Warner Brothers logo morphing
Yeah.
into the bat symbol.
Oh, starting off on my notes.
Mhm.
This I remember my grandmother. I still remember how the VHS. You know those old VHSs you had where you could like record the movie off TV and everything.
Yeah.
She had one. I remember it was like this yellowish like thing, and she gave it to me. It said Batman Forever on it. I'd never seen
Mhm.
that movie. I didn't know what it was. And
Oh,
so
nice.
yeah, and so I put it in. But the thing was, I guess that the kids back then, like recording wasn't exact science. So like
Mhm.
you'd be lucky if you got it at the beginning, unless you timed it out. Even then, it would be kind of like a toss up if you'd actually get it. But it started at the circus scene that we're going to see later.
Kind of miss a lot of context.
For the longest time, I thought that's how the movie started as a kid. So I remember
Oh,
watching.
that's a trip. Yeah.
I was like, I guess this is the beginning of the movie. But yeah, I was watching it and I was like, saw it on I think ABC Family or something one day, which is weird because I saw the VHS, the actual official copy, but I saw on ABC Family. I'm like, what's all this? Like what we're seeing now with him walking to the Batcave.
Oh, that must have been weird because it's almost like watching the director's cut, even though it's not really the director's cut. It's just the stuff you missed in the beginning.
No Red Book edition here.
Yeah, sadly not. That Batmobile. So I know that we've had differing opinions on different Batmobiles. My co-host Andrew he hates this Batmobile. I don't hate it, but I'm like, I'll take it. But it's no Burton Batmobile. It's no '66 Batmobile. What are your thoughts on this Batmobile?
I kind of grew up with this movie. It was one of my, like, I think I told you off mic. It's one of my most watched Batman movies growing up. When I got a haircut, my mom got a haircut anyway. Like they would just put the VHS on for me.
Nice.
Got the haircut. So like, it's one of those things I kind of can't separate it from the nostalgia. So I will always have like a little place in my heart for it. I like the flame, how it's kind of more stylized. It's kind of that weird.
Sure.
Like I don't even know what the name for it. It's a different color red than what we normally see.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I like it. I do. I guess I would like it more if it didn't have the blue coming out through the rib cage. I always thought that was kind of a little weird to me, but I mean that was the style that they wanted to go with, and as I've talked about on my own show, it's like you need to have a take on these characters because otherwise it just becomes boring. Right. So Schumacher absolutely has his own take. There are haters of it and there are lovers of it, but he absolutely has his own take on this, and so more power to him. That like it sounds like he got mostly what he wanted on this really hyper stylized feeling of a living Silver Age comic book. Two-Face. That's what we got. We're at the introduction of Two-Face. This was my introduction to Two-Face even before the animated series. I was watching the animated series, but I don't think I really saw the Two-Face episodes before this one.
Oh, that sucks.
This being my introduction.
Yeah.
I guess it's also a thing where like it was nice to have an introduction to the character itself, but it wasn't one where I'm like, oh, like that's what he's about. Like I didn't really come away with any real impression other than the fact that this is like the very basics of like, okay, he's got one scarred side and he flips a coin a lot. He's obsessed with the number 2. And then I found the other interpretations later on. And I think really once the internet starts coming out and you see everybody just shitting on Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face, then you get an idea of what people actually thought of it. But at the time it was just like, all right, whatever. It's another Batman villain.
Right. Oh, speaking of, I don't know if you're quite synced up with me, but Chase Meridian just showed up. One of my first ever crushes, turns out, like it was when I started noticing girls a little bit whenever she came on the screen. So yeah.
I mean, I can't blame you. She out of the she's probably like out of the main 4 movies, she's probably my favorite in terms of the not necessarily the female lead, but in terms of just like the one I would be most attracted to out of those if I were older during the time. Because like this is still a movie that I was 7 when this came out, so I wasn't like discovering.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't at that point. I was just like, oh, it's Batman's girlfriend for this one. And then later on, when you're older and rewatching, I'm just like, oh damn. So even though like I've seen this a million times as a kid, then you're an adult and like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
She really just wants to get in his utility belt, I guess.
Yeah, and I think she knows what's up in terms of the movie. Like she knows like to play this sort of sultry femme fatale type, but she's not really a femme fatale. But like that's the style that they're going for, and she knows what type of movie she's in.
I noticed that she is in the comics now.
Yeah, I haven't. Have you checked those out? Because I've read a previous version of her, but not the one that's currently that I've got right now.
Not yet. I intend to check it out later. Just usually I have the DC app, so I usually just wait for the stuff to release there. So I'm probably planning to wait to get it, whenever it comes on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always thought that they introduced her almost like it took way too long to introduce her in the comics, because if you think about it, like the mental health professionals in the Batman universe don't exactly have a good rep. Yeah. Hugo Strange, Jonathan Crane, Harley Quinn, even Jeremiah Arkham. I'm like, you could have at least one good person who's in that field. Like Leslie Tompkins, sometimes they mix her up and have her as a therapist instead of a medical doctor. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. But it does make sense to me that there would be a therapist love interest for Batman, considering that considering what he does. And I think it was smart on the screenwriters, the Bachelor's part, to come up with something like that, because they were behind the scenes. They said like, hey, you're not allowed to bring back Vicky Vale, and you can't bring back Catwoman because we're thinking of doing the Catwoman spinoff. So they're like, well, what are we left with? Let's go with somebody. Let's go with an original character. That there are other love interests in the comics, but none of them before then were psychiatrists. So it makes sense that if they wanted to do that, they created their own. Though I guess they could have been like, oh, it's Linda Page, but she's Dr. Linda Page or something. But yeah. Oh well. This Vanguard guy's always annoyed me.
It's between that, and I've heard other reviewers point this out, but I always remember this from when I was a kid. Whenever they're at that big party, and Batman passes through the window, and this guy like, Batman!
Yeah. And I feel like it's the same guy, even though I don't think it is, but I think it's the same. I feel like it's the same guy. I always thought it was the same guy, even as a kid. I'm just like, oh, the bank card gets taken hostage, goes to a random party where it also gets attacked. Like, this is what it's like to live in Gotham City.
I think he wouldn't even be surprised to see him at that point. It's like, it's been years. Probably got laid off after this whole bank heist thing.
That's true. Like, you got yourself taken hostage, shit. Like, maybe rethink your career choices. Oh man, God, yeah, the boiling acid line.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I do love that this is a display of Batman's intelligence here, though, with what he's about to do with the hearing aid.
Yeah,
I think it's one thing to just say like, oh yeah, take it for granted Batman's smart. It's another thing to find ways to write in displays of the intelligence. And I think that was something that we didn't really get much of in the Burton films. It was always implied, it's like, oh, Keaton figured out the cosmetics stuff, but you never really got the scene where he actually does figure out the code. He just kind of figures it out off screen. And here we just have a lot more time with Batman. That's why I don't really buy. Keaton keeps saying like, oh, the script sucked and stuff. I'm just like, actually, it's a better script than what he was working with earlier. Like, and there was way more Bruce Wayne, way more Batman, way more stuff to work with, because it's more Bruce Wayne centered than either the Burton films. And obviously, I'm a fan of the Burton films, but there's a lot here that I can appreciate that's just not in those previously two movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think the focus on Batman is one of those things. And I think Kilmer's underrated in the role.
Yeah, definitely. He was my other than the the animated universe, he was kind of like my Batman. I mean, it's weird because like I have like contradictory things because I say like he was my Batman, but I also do remember one of my parents telling me that apparently when I was younger and I wanted like an action figure, the only one I specified I wanted the Michael Keaton Batman action figures. So I don't know. I might be full of shit right now, but from what I remember,
he was your Batman for a time.
Yeah.
But to me, Kilmer is he doesn't quite have the feeling of a creature of the night aspect that Keaton had, but it's a different interpretation. It's a more superheroic Silver Age Batman interpretation. So that's not really, he didn't really have a choice in that matter. But I really do love the Bruce Wayne characterization that he has with him as the he's the philanthropist, he's the businessman, he's providing for people, he's looking out for other people, including obviously Robin and stuff. It's one that we didn't really get to see explored, and I think the Schumacher movies have built a bad reputation as being like, oh, it ruined Batman. I'm just like, yeah, but if you look at the actual Batman characterization and how they represent just that character, it's actually pretty solid.
Yeah. And then I know you probably know famously that Bob Kane said with this that he it's like, oh, this is how I always drew Batman, talking about Val Kilmer, which is kind of shitting on Michael
he's my favorite Batman. What? Like Clooney's going to be the new Batman? Clooney's my favorite Batman. That's the way that Andrew and I have kind of reasoned that he was just going to say that about anybody at that point. But I guess it's nice that he's got the on the record endorsement from Bob Kane at back in '95, when I don't think anybody knew that much about the Bill Finger stuff unless they were like really hardcore about the comics, but I certainly didn't when I was 7. Yeah. So it's cool that he's got that endorsement, but then when you find out more about Bob Kane, you're like, I don't know how much that's really significant.
Yeah. I just feel like, also not to be too cynical, it's like, yeah, he's the best Batman, where's my check?
Yeah, that too. It's like, Warner Brothers, come on. I gave them my stamp of approval. That's at least worth a few Franklins.
Yeah. I see some Tim Bless broads in this picture.
I love the shot of him in the water coming up.
That's an awesome shot.
Yeah.
That's like to be heavy in the water.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too. I'm sure that's not Kilmer either. In that moment, there's no because some people ask me about like, well, how come they didn't have Michael Keaton do this or that? Because I recently interviewed a Batsuit double, movement double for it, and it's just like, if you got to understand show business, like most of the time, unless you absolutely need this guy for this shot, like it's close-ups, it's acting, it's line delivery. You only have them for a certain amount of time, especially if they're traveling to get to where you are. If you're shooting in England and you're casting an American actor, you only have them for like a certain amount of months. So you want to prioritize all the stuff that you absolutely need them. And then anything else, you can get some English dude in a bat suit to fulfill that. You don't need him to do every single thing where like doesn't have to be obvious that it's him.
Right. And it's one of those things with the VHS versus like the digital version. When you watch VHS, you can't really tell when they switch them out, but you can definitely tell when it becomes digital.
Yeah. Especially like the close up on you see Batman's face a bit when he's fighting Bob, or not Bob, the swordsman in '89. You're just like, that's not Keaton. That's definitely not Keaton. Just looking at his face. So it was cool to be introduced to Wayne Enterprises in this sequence, because we never really got that in the previous movies either. This is the first time that we've seen it. The Wayne Foundation was always mentioned in the '66 show, but I don't think we really got a look at it. At least I haven't watched every episode yet of the '66 show, but I don't. From what I've seen so far, it's always just mentioned, never actually shown. So this is kind of the first time that we've gotten it, and then we might see him again. But Jon Favreau is one of the aides. Right. The back, we can't see him right now. Kilmer is just covering him right now.
Happy Hogan.
Yeah. Or Happy Hogan. Happy Hogan was working for Val Kilmer.
It's where he got the idea. I've heard the joke too. I think it might have even been from the Kevin Smith commentary where he was talking about the little display that we're going to see later, where it's like that's where he got the idea for the Iron Man display from, is where you see Alfred's face. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
This device is clearly a blender.
Yeah, clearly. I love this guy, the Stickley guy. Like,
yeah.
What the hell is going on here? He
line deliveries. Yeah, he knows what's up to.
Yeah, he knows he's in the cartoon, like Joel Schumacher famously shouted before each take, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I know that was reported for Batman and Robin, but I'm sure some of that was in there with Batman Forever too.
Yeah.
Now the people listening were probably aware, but if they're not aware already, that the theatrical cut is not the original way that it was scripted in terms of the order of the scenes. So the way that it's done here, the original way it originally was that the scene with Bruce and the future Riddler was actually going to be part of the opening of the movie. Then he saw the bat signal, then he went to the cave, suited up, and then stopped Two-Face. But in this version, it's been reordered. It happens afterwards. So people have brought up that in the theatrical cut, the flaw is that Edward Nygma becomes Riddler because Batman was answering the booty call of the bat signal from Chase Meridian. So technically it's Chase Meridian's fault in wanting to bang Batman that the Riddler is created in the theatrical cut. I'm like, they do have a point there.
Right. There's like a weird kind of, and not to say weird, it's kind of almost like a relationship thing they imply, like it's with Riddler, where it's kind of like he's almost in love with him almost.
Yeah, I think people have read into that as well, and I'm not sure how much of that is just because Joel Schumacher is an openly gay director and people sort of see the subtext in it, or if the subtext is there and is brought into it, and I just don't see that as a straight guy. Maybe it is, but as a kid, it was always just like, oh, we idolized him and his hero was let down, that type of thing. There's the Iron Man display.
Yeah.
So I always thought this was cool with the pod that was coming to the Batcave. Must have been hell to build.
Yeah. I just imagine he must have done that in between movies or something, because it'd take a while.
Yeah. And I do like this Gotham.
Yeah, I love that shot too. I love the kind of, I don't know if you've ever seen the Flash TV series, the one from the 90s.
Yeah, I've seen the first couple episodes. I wanted to see more. It's just I'm waiting for it to hit HBO Max.
Yeah, but it's kind of gotten, I know it was aping off the Burton films at first, but it's kind of got this kind of feel where it's almost like I would just describe it as this too, where like the comic book pages are almost bleeding onto the film. That's how it kind of feels with the lighting and the color choices and everything.
Oh, definitely. I remember as a kid, I'm just like, this is a living comic book. Just like before I found out that Schumacher wanted that specifically, and just the colors and stuff. I'm like, well, it's a different feel from the Burton stuff, but it still felt like Batman. It still felt like the comics in terms of just the visual palette of that. So it's Chase Meridian trying to get into Batman's utility belt here.
Not being very subtle either.
Right. So I've seen Batman Forever a number of times with girls I've dated, because most of the time they're also Batman fans or want to get into it. And every single time the Chase Meridian stuff comes up, they're just like, they're always just like the way that they wrote women. And it's ironic too, because it's a female co-writer.
Yes.
But I'm just like, yeah, I can see that, where it's just like she's just, everything that she does is built around trying to get with Batman. So I'm like, I can't blame that, even though I think I'd be interested in checking out the comics to see where that element is missing and what she provides for it, because it sounds as if, based off of what I've read about it, that she's kind of just more of an ally to Batman in a way, and stuff that's going on in Arkham. So I'm like, okay, that could be interesting to see. I don't know if she's a love interest or has any potential of becoming a love interest in the comics right now.
This part where he just he wanders out, Commissioner Gordon out in his pajamas.
You have to wonder, he's like, oh, there's a signal when he gets out of bed. in the robe. He's got to get into his car, drive all the way down to downtown, hustle his way up to the top just to find out that it was Chase Meridian the whole time. And then I don't know if there's been any consequence afterwards of Chase Meridian having illicitly used the bat signal, but we didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah.
I imagine he would be pissed considering got out of bed for this at like what?
Well, no, man. Someone needs to check on Gordon. I think maybe his wife might have kicked him out of the house. He's sleeping
on the couch at Bullock's or something.
Yeah, sleeping at the couch of the GCPD.
It actually probably isn't too late because the bat signal was on at like still during work hours and so and then Bruce, it's pretty fast commute to get to the Batcave, so he needs some time to get. So we're looking at what, maybe 8 o'clock when the bat signal comes on. So Gordon turns in at like 8 p.m. in the evening.
I have to do my job right now. No.
I think I'll take a nap.
Yeah. He's got a roll out bed in there somewhere.
Or it's Bullock's couch or something.
Yeah, I would love to see Bullock, especially. Like, I wish that they would. So far, the only thing I've seen live action, other than like fan films and stuff, is like Gotham do Bullock. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He'd be great in the Batman. I'm sure there's other movies they could do it in the future where they could bring Bullock in.
Yeah, especially because they've had more of an emphasis on the GCPD in the more modern movies. It's just like, okay, but you're not gonna bring in Bullock and Montoya, or I'm like, yeah, we had Montoya, but Montoya in something that had no Batman, no Commissioner Gordon. None of that. So I'm like, that's not what I mean by bringing in Montoya. But it'd be great. Bullock is in the novelization.
Really?
Of Batman Forever. Yeah, he is written in as the cop who is up on the rooftop when Gordon's like, he's not coming, shut it down. And then the Batwing comes and Kilmer gives his thumbs up.
That's my favorite moment of the movie.
Is it?
Yeah. I used to always I think I stood up. It's like, that scene of Batman Forever where he stands up when there's the bat sale. That's how I stood up, like I'm ready.
Yes.
Whenever that scene came up, if I was in the movie theater, I'd just start clapping.
That's absolutely for kids at that point, because like Gordon can't even see the thumbs up from there. He's all the way down on the rooftop. I mean, it's like I'm still learning trusted social interaction right now.
Hey, it's on
trying to make effort.
He's on the cover of Time magazine now, so I guess he's making some progress with being
That's
more
true.
public.
Yeah, definitely. Like the Bruce Wayne in the Schumacher movies actually has a public image as opposed to the Keaton one, which shows evolution if you're looking at it in the same continuity, or is a completely different take if you're looking at it as a different continuity. Right. So I always thought of it as a sequel that just kind of changed, like Gotham changed in between movies and whatever. I just accepted it more as a kid. Now these days people are all about like, how will they explain this recasting? I'm just like, it's called recasting. It's nothing really that out of the box for this. It's just kind of how it was at the time. People didn't really see the whole multiverse thing. And now technically, I guess this is in a different continuity where 89 and a return to previously happened in some way to the Kilmer Batman. And it just kind of continued from here. But Returns didn't necessarily continue into Forever for Keaton, considering that we're going to get other appearances of him. Is it just me, or does Nigma's hair get redder after this? I don't know if it's...
They did something weird with his hair in this.
I
don't know what they did.
It's like they gave him a brighter red wig for this part after he has Stickley go through all the stuff. I always noticed that. I'm just like, I don't know if that was deliberate or if they just made a mistake that day.
Do you think it's the lighting, maybe?
It could be. I just always thought like, it also came, like his hair turned red from using it so much, which is why his hair is so vibrantly red when he's the Riddler. But then when he's Edward Nigma, I guess he's also wearing a wig in the character, not necessarily Jim Carrey. That's obviously Jim Carrey's hair, more likely. But like, I don't know, the issue of Edward Nigma's hair always kind of, it didn't mystify me, but I wondered about it sometimes watching this, where just like, okay, which one is the wig and which one is real on that? Because it seems like the Riddler one with the red hair would be the wig, but then his hair is red already in this stuff. So I'm like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, like he's. I know other people have said it too. He's more like Mad Hatter in this than he is like the Riddler.
Yeah, over the whole brain sucking thing, like I get it.
Yeah,
But you know, you just part of it's also like you got to go for a big movie like this. You got to go with the more famous film.
yeah,
You can't necessarily be like, oh yeah, especially at this time, right? Like they
yeah,
can't just be like the bachelors themselves had told me that they couldn't go with Bane at the time. They couldn't go with somebody who was just a no-namer. They wanted somebody no-namer at that time. They
yeah.
had to go with somebody who like anybody knew because of the 60s show. They had to go famous on this. So it makes sense. And like, yeah, Mad Hatter's in the 60s show, but you know, 1995, you're really going to put Mad Hatter in there versus the Riddler? No, you're going to put the Riddler in there. You're going to have, yeah, you're going to have Frank Gorshin get, you know, reimagined and from another major actor, major star, because that's how you do it. Now, these days, you can kind of get away with it. You know, like people are talking about potentially Court of Owls in the Batman 2. And like you couldn't do, even the Court of Owls was around in the 90s. There's no fucking way that they would have let them be the villains for Batman Forever or any of those movies. There's just no way. They're not famous enough at that time. But now you can experiment more, especially because people are already joking about how there's like 50 different Batman. I'm like, all right, let's bring in characters we haven't seen before on film.
Right. I know definitely this is like perfect. Like I would say that this movie, their interpretations of it, like there's a certain kind of movie being made in the 90s that I don't know if you could make today, but this is
Yeah.
perfect for like a 90s Riddler. Like you can't get any better than Jim Carrey. Like it's the
Yeah.
best version of what we would probably see back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like there's no way we would have gotten Zodiac, Paul Dano, Riddler at 95. They're just like, you're crazy. Is what they would have said if they tried to make that back then. But now it's just like, all right, like let's see some. It's the time of reimaginings, whereas over here it was a time of like, yeah, let's bring this, let's like turn this into a franchise. You know,
Yeah. Surprised
love this character moment.
Yeah.
But
oh no. I was surprised they have suicide and like this like mostly light popcorn movie. I mean, there's darker elements, but just having like a suicide, and even though it's fake, it's kind of interesting.
I don't even remember if I knew what that was at the time. I think I just figured like, oh, Riddler killed a guy but got away with it.
Yeah.
Like to 7-year-old me, like that's what it was. It wasn't like, oh, like here was the note and like, you know, it's not under the insurance policy. Bruce is covering it anyway. Like I didn't even understand that beat, which I love, of Bruce being like he gets full benefits no matter what. Like as a 7-year-old, I don't understand that. But as an adult, I'm just like, oh damn, you know, that's classic philanthropist Bruce.
Yeah.
You know. Now we got Bad Days playing as we get
song.
Yeah. Did you have the soundtrack? Or get the soundtrack?
I did not. I had the trading cards growing up, which I actually showed you before. But
I have some of them right now.
Nice. Ooh, the Stickley suicide thing. Like I told you before that my VHS copy only picked up at the circus. So whenever they were going over that part, I like as a kid, I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. So I just kept like watching it. I was like, I don't know what this means.
Also, like I was at the age where I'm like, I'm here for the vibrant colors and to see Batman kick ass, and that like I didn't really care what was going on with him and Chase Meridian. To me, it was just simple like, oh, like that's his girlfriend, and well, that's it. Like I didn't really care about the content of it until when I was older. When you start looking for different things, but when you're when you're the age that I was in this, like if I just see a guy in a bat suit fighting a bunch of henchmen, I'm happy for the whole movie.
Exactly. But I know that lost my train of thought. But
no worries.
Oh yeah. Right. With Nicole Kidman, I was thinking about that. Speaking of like not being interested in the whole like kissing stuff, even though like I noticed like girls in there, it's like, oh, she's pretty and stuff. I think my dad, whenever they actually kiss in there, it's like this is also Alex's childhood stuff. Because last time I talked about Nasty Penguin, this time I'm gonna talk about this. But they kiss in that bedroom scene that we see later, and I think my dad wandered in and he's like, oh, smoochy.
I do wonder what my parents would have thought at that time about it. Where like Nicole Kidman is practically naked with the bed sheet on. Batman comes in, you kind of know what's up. now as an adult, but as a kid, you're just like, whatever, it's adults doing adult stuff,
Yeah.
But I'm sure the parents are just like, where's this going to lead to? Because if they went with the Bachelor script, it would have cut to Batman with just the mask on, naked from the neck down.
Whoa.
And Chase being like, how come you didn't take the mask off and stuff? Like literally he has sex with Chase in the original script with the Batman mask on.
I'm like, mask on.
I don't know about that. Kind of glad that was cut. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that I love in the script that didn't make it into the movies that I wish was in there. The love scene, not really something that I was missing. I'm like, it's a good thing they cut this. It's a good thing they changed it, and it is what it is in the movie.
The All-Star Batman. That's what I was referencing earlier.
Yeah,
with
we keep the masks on. Yeah,
it's better this way. Taking a page from them before they even made it.
Yeah,
Frank Miller must have read that.
Did you already know about All-Star's reputation before you read that, or did you discover it while it happened the way I did?
Here's the weird thing. When I was younger, I guess I was like it was around the time I was first discovering or getting back into comics, I guess I'd say, like really getting into them. Because I think the first thing that kind of got me interested again was there's a documentary called Comic Book Superheroes Unmasked. That was like one of my all-time favorites. And they talked about The Dark Knight. But even before that, I had like this book that my dad got me, which was like from the Adam West show all the way up to The Dark Knight Returns. And I remember seeing that image of like the Joker just, spread up against that wall, and then he just snaps his neck. And I was like 8 years old or like 9. I'm like, what? It was like kind of upsetting. I was like, wait, what's going on here? And I got into comics later, but yeah, I read that, and I read the Strikes Again, and
oh god,
yeah, and All-Star. And I guess I kind of at the time, I don't know if it's an excuse or I was being an apologist, but I guess at the time I thought, well, this has to be parody. There's no way that like he actually is like, this is clearly him like, messing with the conventions and stuff.
I think it is. I think it is too. I think because his intentions in Dark Knight Returns are different from his intentions later on. Like Dark Knight Returns, he's on record saying like, I didn't intend on making him an anti-hero. I wanted him to be a hero. I wanted him to be heroic. It's just other people took the dark anti-hero stuff from it. And I think he was kind of like, all right, if you like that shit, I'm just going to go balls to the walls with that and have him force Dick Grayson to eat rats in the Batcave and that. But, I was expecting All-Star Batman and Robin when I picked it up to be like, oh yeah, Frank Miller reimagines Robin's origin story the same way he did Year One, and this is going to be the ultimate Robin origin story. And then like the first issue, it's okay. I'm a teenager when it comes out, so I don't mind the fact that Vicky Vale is in like 3 pages, basically half naked. But I was like, yeah, we didn't really need that, but I don't mind it either. But then we get to the second issue, man, and then he's just like, I'm the goddamn Batman. He's torturing Robin. I'm like, I don't know about this.
I will say this though, and this made sense to me in my mind. I'm like, okay, if we're going by this is a prequel to the Robin that we saw in Strikes Again, if he's like mentally tormenting this kid, then it makes so much sense why he's so messed up in that book.
Yeah, and I think that's helps explain it. I do like the overall idea of Batman being completely clueless how to raise a kid. I just think it could be portrayed a lot differently. And here we are at the beginning of the movie. So did it start right with this part?
It wasn't even this part. It was the part where it was like, I remember the exact line because I watched it so many times. It's like, I think it's when he says, radio detonator. That's the first
You didn't think
line.
It's kind of strange that there was no Warner Brothers logo. There's no credits. It's just the lights came dark and then suddenly it's Tommy Lee Jones yelling radio detonator.
I'm like, I guess in my mind too, I kind of was like, well, I guess I'm not missing anything important. Like if she started recording here.
It's true. Maybe thought it was like the credits and then Two-Face takes over and that's it. But it is the I guess opening on the deaths of the Graysons and stuff is kind of true to some of the original drafts for the 89 movie when they tried to make it more of a Robin origin movie. So that's an interesting sort of reimagining.
Yeah.
of this, because I'm trying to put myself in your shoes as watching this for the first time and seeing this is the beginning, or not this part, but the radio detonator part and everything on, and seeing all the other things as your introduction to those versions of the characters, and it reads a lot more interesting in some ways. But I this is, I think, the first, no, it's not the very first time they did it, but it's the first time they did it on film where they did the Graysons origin. And they decided to do the whole thing where like the uniforms are like the future Robin suit, even though like his Robin suit's obviously a lot more stylized and darker than the traditional one that they got here. But it's a nice, they got, even back then they had Easter eggs.
Yeah. And then also, like, what do you I wanted to ask you this, it's not even something I wrote down, but
Sure.
what do you think pisses you off more in terms of like the origin thing? Joker killing Batman's parents, or Two-Face killing Robin's parents?
Neither one pissed me off. But if I were to choose about like, if I were to choose, I would say Joker killing Bruce's parents. Gun to my head, right? If I had to pick one, it'd be Joker killing Bruce's parents would be the direction I wouldn't go with, because that's not what was in the original script. You don't really need that dynamic in order for the Joker versus Batman stuff to work, as opposed to here where I'm like, well, you don't really need to add yet another character like Boss Zuko. We have enough villains as it is, and then there's already kind of been a rivalry between the Robins and Two-Face anyway, so it makes sense. Like Two-Face killed Jason Todd's parents, or killed his dad, really, in the comics. So like, it just kind of changing it so that he kills the Graysons. It's not too bad. And also, I guess if I were to, when going by the movies, right? Going by the movies, I would pick Two-Face killing the Graysons over Joker killing the Waynes, because like in '89, it feels like what it was, which is like the last minute twist they added in the rewrites, as opposed to here it was always there. But if I were to go by the comic stuff, Joker killing the Waynes, I'm like, okay, that kind of fits Joker's character, as opposed to like, I wouldn't really want Two-Face to kill the Graysons in the comic continuity, because I always like the idea of Harvey Dent being redeemable.
Yeah.
Even though he does commit crimes and stuff, but him flat out killing the parents of one of the Bat family members, that's when you're just like, you're in irredeemable territory here. I think it's fine for this version of Two-Face, because he obviously doesn't get redeemed. He gets, he takes a bath at the end of the movie. But in regular comic continuity, I wouldn't want that to happen. Kind of excuse it more when it's Jason Todd's dad, because of the fact that Jason Todd's dad was mixed up and stuff. He was like a henchman type, as opposed to like just clearly innocent people in this. So that's why I'm like, if we're going by comics, then no. But
here it is. Sorry.
Radio detonator.
I just remember this. I remember the tracking lines and everything. Yeah, it came up and then it being all blurry and everything. Yeah. I think those are my picks. How about for you? This was your movie growing up too, so I guess like you accepted Two-Face killing the Graysons too. I didn't know any different back then, so it's just one of those things. I think thematically, for me, I don't like the whole, like, I kind of agree with you, the Joker killing Batman's parents. I don't like that, but I do like kind of retroactively what it does. And it also, in this movie, they address it kind of gives Bruce a chance, since this is like the third movie, like, he comes up against this problem again with like one of the villains that he comes up against killing one of, in this case, a partner's parents instead of his parents. So he's able to maybe try to fix it this time, except he kills him at the end. So that kind of ruins it, but
right. Yeah. that's kind of the big one. I think novelization has the best possible version of it, but I also think like just the simple, I mean, it's cliched as fuck, but the whole thing about like, don't kill him, that type of thing, and then they save him and they throw him in jail, like that classic thing would have worked thematically with this. And then you also wouldn't have that you wouldn't have a kill count necessarily on Kilmer's Batman, though. I mean, it's a little questionable with the car chase when he moves the car out of the way and the henchman behind him get blown up. But I'm like, you could debate about that a little more versus what he does to Two-Face.
Yeah. All he needed was the grappling hook or something. He could have just got him around like his leg or
yeah,
something.
he could have just caught him the same way that Bale catches Ledger in The Dark Knight at the end. You know, like they could have just done that, or Robin does it, you know, and just shows Robin's like evolution. And that like that could have been cool. And then, you know, you have the triumphant Elliot Goldenthal theme. We haven't talked about that yet, but
yeah.
You know, Elfman will always have a spot in my heart for it. But like, you know, this score from Goldenthal is legit. And again, it's very 90s bombastic type of feel to the score, but it fits so well with the movie. And again, memorable themes. I kind of miss the days of memorable themes. That's why I like the new theme from Giacchino so much. I'm just like, oh, like one that I can hum more. I mean, I like every single Batman theme that's ever been done. So I do like Hans Zimmer's stuff and Junkie XL's, but to get back to something that's very simple melody was very refreshing to me.
Right. Like I said before, like growing up with this, I know I already told you. Also another thing that I don't know if I've shared with you before. Internet, don't roast me too hard. But I didn't see Batman 89 until I was at least in 6th grade, because I saw Batman Returns, and before I was really on the internet or anything, like I'm not the smartest person, so I saw Batman Returns, and I was like, "Oh, that's
out of order."
Yeah, that's the first movie. I thought Batman Returns the first movie. I'm like, that's kind of weird.
Returns because he returns because he was in the 6th. I mean, I guess that would make sense. You know, Batman 66 and then Batman Returns to, you know, having stories again on screen or something.
Turns forever. That seems kind of like a rush, but like, all right.
So you're saying, I think I know what you're going to lead to, but in terms of were you worried the internet was going to roast you in terms of seeing it out of order, or just, about your opinions?
I didn't see it till later, and honestly, this is the part that's the big reveal. I think I might have kind of known about it before, but I didn't see it until I was in 6th grade, and then I was just like, wait, this is the one people talk about. I think it was on Cartoon Network. I think Cartoon Network had like a premiere of it back in the day, and like I saw it and I'm just like, this is it? Like, I don't know. It's just kind of boring to me. But then again, I was a lot harsher on movies as a kid than when I was just watching it, I guess, for action. And when, you know, once I grew up, you had the Nolan trilogy going on around that time too, so there was more to compare it to, I guess.
Yeah, I go back and forth on which ones among the first 3 of the 90s I think are the best ones. I think 89 just has a certain magical quality to it that comes from pretty much everything that's not the script. And that's not anything, that's not necessarily anything against Sam Ham's, because I've reviewed Sam Ham's original scripts on it. It's just like there's clearly a lot of studio rewrites and stuff. But you know, the art direction obviously deserved the Oscar. The Batmobile's my favorite. The score from Elfman is great. There's a lot of that type of stuff. Returns to me is more emotional out of the two, and it was I consider it the Batman movie of my adolescence, not because it came out when I was an adolescent, but it's because that's the one I rewatched a lot when I was when I was in high school. And then this one, though, I'm just like, you know what, there's a lot of underrated aspects, and if I'm going by representation of Batman's character, there's just so much more that's being presented here. Versus, like, you know, they nailed creature of the night aspects. They nailed the mystery aspect of Keaton's version. But in terms of like heroism, compassion, intelligence, like all those other aspects that you associate with Batman 2, there's like maybe a few small percentage of that with Keaton, and then there's big percentages of that with the Schumacher versions.
Yeah.
So I think it just really comes down to like what I'm in the mood for. If I'm in the mood for you know, just kind of something classic from my childhood that gets me into the world of Gotham City and Batman versus Joker, then sure, 89. If I'm in like a sort of lonely emo mode, then I'll go into Returns. And then if I want like super heroic Batman, you know, world's greatest detective type shit, while also, you know, the hairy chested love god of Neil Adams, where he's going to bed with like really hot women, then sure, I'll go with Batman Forever, the Schumacher movies, but Forever in particular, because of like that's the quality that they bring. So it's cool to get so many different interpretations, and I think as I get older, I get more appreciative the ones that maybe I didn't fully appreciate when I was younger. Even Batman and Robin these days. We've done a few episodes on that, and now I'm just like, okay, there's definitely elements of it that I appreciate now more than I did when I was the only one as a kid that I only saw once. I never had the VHS tape. I never owned it. And then as an adult, now that I've seen it a few times for the podcast, I'm like, you know what? There's certain things I like about it. It's definitely the weakest out of the four, but there's stuff that I like.
Yeah. I love how stylized the flashback is in this. Like, this is something that stuck with me as a kid. I guess that's supposed to be the Joker right there.
They shoot him just like the Jack Napier one. So this. Yeah, and it's also the David Mazzucchelli image, where he's kneeling by the deaths, the bodies of his parents. We didn't get that in the Burton one.
Yeah, it's just so like the vibe of it. It's like, I would say it's very much like a midway point or like a transitionary point between like how Burton did it. Like there's like still like you can still kind of see like little elements of it, and then Schumacher. But Schumacher also, like, I feel like if Burton shot this, it'd probably look very different. But I like kind of like how the stylizedness and the color and everything just really works with this flashback. You got this blue like flame and everything. Yeah. Everything's very cold, very like an unpleasant kind of flashback. So everything kind of communicates it with how cold and like
it fits
the
that world.
Is. Yeah.
Yeah, it fits that world.
Red leather book.
Yes. I wonder where that's gonna go.
Nowhere.
Because it's the theatrical version. Yeah. All right, I hate to do this, but after we're done with the scene, I gotta take a piss.
Okay, you're good.
So let's finish this one, and then maybe we'll pause. But I do. Somebody brought up before. I'm like, how long was he daydreaming? Because it's daytime when he flashes back, and then when he wakes up, it's already night. And it was like in the middle of the day type of thing. It wasn't like 5, 6 o'clock when Robin showed up.
Right. All right. You want to go ahead and stop here?
Yeah.
All right. I'll just go ahead and say, guys, we're stopping right there, whether you see the bat symbol in the window. We'll be right back. All right. Hey guys, we're back. Andrew, sorry, Ben is ready. The guy next to you. But yeah, he's ready. So we're just gonna go ahead and start it back. I refilled my official McDonald's licensed Batman Forever mug. We got just go ahead and show it for the product placement, I guess.
Hopefully it won't cause you to have to deposit and go need the bathroom later.
Yeah, hopefully I won't get flagged either. But yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and start. You ready on your end?
Yep.
All right. We stopped at the Batman symbol being right outside the windows. We're just going to start right now. I know I was watching one of your recent episodes, or it's one of the Patreon ones where you're talking about Michael Gough, and definitely is one of the underappreciated Alfreds out there.
I feel like if you've played Alfred and your name is not Michael Caine, you're an underappreciated Alfred.
Yeah,
like, I feel like most of them are just kind of not seen by the public eye as or recognized as much compared to Batman fans and compared to other Alfreds who've been played. But yeah, this is the Alfred of our childhood right here, of this Alfred. So I don't know if I'm to the extent where I hear his voice in the comics, because my co-host Andrew, he does. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because like I grew up with all these movies, but I don't think I hear it so much in the comics. But it is a voice of Alfred. Like it is one where like you hear it, I'm like, oh, that's Alfred's voice, which is why it's trippy when if you watch Michael Gough's previous work, and it's his voice coming out, but he's playing villains, and you're like, this is trippy,
Right. I don't know if you saw, I know on the Patreon you mentioned some of his previous work. Have you seen, I actually saw it recently, Sleepy Hollow, the Tim Burton movie?
Yeah, that's another example, right? Though after this, but I saw Sleepy Hollow a while back. That might have been the first time I saw him in something that was not Alfred or Batman related.
It was unsettling, man, just seeing him not play
right.
Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like this is also one of my like scenes I just remember from childhood. Like I think I have
Mhm.
this scene basically memorized of them chasing them. What's the weird in the 90s, I don't really remember because I was a kid, was like the whole piercing thing like a really
Mhm.
big thing back then?
I feel like it was like it's a sign you're a rebel, and then now these days is like it's so common that you're just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just like, oh, these are edgy people and stuff. All right, so Two Face is firing this thing. He moves the Batmobile to get out of the way. However, the henchmen don't, and they get blown up. So I guess there is a debate on how responsible is Batman for that in this. I feel that Batman dodges to get out of the way, but it's on the henchmen to to do the same thing.
Right.
Maybe not do the same exact move, but at least like swerve a little bit or whatever. But it's not. I don't think Batman deliberately swerved out of the way so that Two Face would hit his own men.
Yeah. Those masks, I don't know, those masks are pretty tight. So I'm guessing that probably some of their circulation to their brain is probably cut off, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
That's gonna be my excuse for why Batman's not at fault. It's their fault. They saw the rocket launcher coming. You heard him screaming. They could have moved.
Yeah. But I know the Mr. Sunday movies has the whole like Batman kill count video that went around, and even Zack Snyder acknowledged it. So that one counted. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess, but is it really? So at some point, Andrew and I are going to do an episode about the kill rule and no kill rule, and which ones kind of count in the movies and which ones don't. Because like you've got ambiguous ones like that where you're just like, like I guess he's partially responsible, but is he really? Not really, compared to like the Two-Face one. Like, yeah, it's not really his fault that Two-Face fell, but he didn't do shit when Two-Face started falling either.
Right.
As opposed to here, I'm like, there's not really much he could have done from the Batmobile to have prevented those guys from getting hit.
Yeah, other than have his Batmobile blow up. Like,
right, which is not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the Dark Knight. They're not going to do that. And this, don't they blow it up though? Never mind. Actually, I take it
they
back.
do blow it up. It's just not with him in it.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about.
They're not going to blow up the Batmobile in this. Wait a minute. This is the one where they do that.
Yeah. Proven wrong again.
So this is the Riddler origin. Him coming up. How do I come up with my name? And he ends up. I don't know how he ends up with the thing in the first place. The mannequin dude in the corner, because I do kind of like the original idea of them being at the circus, and in the original script they were at the circus and Nigma was stalking Bruce at the circus, and there was like a fortune-telling leprechaun, which is kind of far-fetched in a way because like who the fuck, when is there ever a fortune-telling leprechaun at a circus? But
That's
I like
so
the
weird.
idea of Nigma knocks the guy out, takes on his leprechaun outfit, and then pretends to be that leprechaun, but then he goes off of it and he adds the question marks in later, so it sort of explains it, because they never really do. I've brought this up before, but like there's an explanation for why Bruce dresses up as a bat. There's explanations for why Selina dresses up as a cat, why Two-Face is obsessed with twos and got the scars, but for Riddler's like, why does he wear green? Fuck if we know. At least in the Batman, right? It made sense because like it's army surplus store type stuff. It already comes in green.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked. Here it's like he's got some mannequin guy in the corner of his tiny apartment wearing the outfit. So that's why he wears it. I guess that's fine, for 95. But these days I'm like, there's not really a lot of explanations for this. You could also see Riddler in the corner of Two-Face's hideout if you look to the right.
I didn't even notice that. That's hilarious.
He's just been hiding there the whole time, which means he's just waiting for his entrance. He didn't like come in at that moment. He was just like, all right, when's a good spot? When's a good time to bring it up? Maybe after they're talking about this dinner that they made for him.
For Schumacher to give him a cue to come on screen.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Speaking of Schumacher, what do you think of Tim Burton's recent comments about the Schumacher movies?
I feel like they've been taken to a different extreme. So I think somebody was just like, Burton is shitting on the late Schumacher. I'm like, I feel like he's not, because they were friends. He gave the franchise to Schumacher, and I think Burton was more criticizing the studio and stuff because the studio let him go from Batman Returns for being too weird. Batman Returns stuff was too weird. But then it's like, well, this is weird where you put the nipples on the suit and stuff. So like you allow this, that type of thing. I don't think he was saying, because he said go fuck yourselves.
Yeah,
And
that was a
I
little
think
extreme.
that was a little, I'm like, I don't know about that, Tim. But I feel like if he's directing any anger, it's towards the WB execs who kind of let him go or didn't, gave him basically a lot of shit for Batman Returns. I don't feel like he was doing that towards Schumacher himself. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I was always under the impression that, they were friends. And, Burton's name is on this, even though like he wasn't super involved past helping to hire Schumacher and the screenwriters. But my thoughts are that it's more directed towards WB.
Right. And also like, was the interview, I didn't really look that far into it. Was it in print or was it like a audio or video interview?
Oh, that's another thing. I think it's print. I think it's an interview of Empire. So it could have been taken, if you're thinking it's taken out of context, there's also that possibility too.
Yeah, well, what's his tone? Like, was he kind of just he might have just been like, "Hey, go fuck yourself." Like, he's just kind of like whatever.
Probably. Like if you've seen Tim Burton in interviews, he doesn't come on. Like I never really seen him be like angry. Like I can totally see Tarantino be just like pissed off, being like, "Go fuck yourselves." Yeah. But then with Burton, I can just see him like chuckle as he says it.
Yeah,
So that's a whole other. There's two different. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah,
And I very much see Burton sort of just nervously laughing about it and laughing about the experience. I don't see him being like legitimately pissed off about something that happened like 30 years ago.
Right.
At this point, like you came out pretty well out of all this.
Yeah, seriously.
So I don't think it's actually as big as people say it is.
Right, and also people like it. It's like context. He could have laughed after that. Like we don't know because we weren't there.
Yeah. Again, I picture him nervously laughing about it or laughing about the idea of it, exaggerating it, and directing any ire that's there towards WB for sort of dropping the ball on the franchise that he helped started and how they didn't really give him the creative freedom that he wanted originally on it. So I think that's where the frustration comes from. I don't think he's disrespecting Joel Schumacher at all.
Yeah. Speaking of HD versus video, man, you can I don't know if you noticed this. You can really see on Riddler the makeup line, like under his like.
Oh,
mask.
I can see that. I can see that now. Yeah. That's true. I don't remember seeing that as a kid, but now I'm like, oh yeah, that's very apparent. But also realistic, right? Because right now this is Edward Nygma before he becomes the big, multimillionaire selling the box and that type of stuff. So this is like him in that little apartment putting on this makeup and shit. So I can excuse it and watching it. It doesn't take me out of it.
Also, the difference to HD and video, I've noticed this when on a rewatch. They as far as I know, every time with Two-Face's costume, one side is basically the normal business side, but they definitely do change up the other side. Like they'll add like little different elements to the suit and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Something I didn't notice on the first time.
Yeah, they I think they just wanted to go all out with the costume and I know that we're used to the animated series sometimes. There's just the whole black and white thing, but I think they just wanted to go flamboyant, spice it up every now and then. They really love their art direction and costume departments and this, and I'm sure it was a lot of fun for them. This is probably my least favorite scene right here with the laundry. Even as a kid, I thought this was lame. I don't know what you felt when you first saw this. I was just like, Dick, you really think this is cool, but
I don't know what I thought about it. It's one of those scenes I just kind of watched. I'm just like, okay. But I remember weirdly, I think Alfred has the same response we do. He's like, really? Like he's just kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah. Pretty much. I'm like, you cut that. I mean, you kept that one in, but you cut the one where he's working on there's a deleted scene of him with the punching bag and shit. Mm-hmm. And Bruce is like trying to talk to him and appeal to his pain. I'm like, that's what the whole movie's about. That's you cut that one, but you left in him with the fucking laundry and stuff. So I would have switched it up.
It's WB. They like you guys have kind of turned me around. I wasn't always super faithful in WB, but just now seeing it, I'm like, I think WB's the real super villains of all their movies.
So I guess another thing that carries over from the Keaton stuff is the glasses on Bruce, because that's something that's
Weird.
yeah, that starts with Burton, and it's kind of a Clark Kent type of thing. It feels like with Kilmer's, and then with Clooney, it's been gone since Clooney pretty much in terms of the glasses.
Yeah, good.
But I feel like Kilmer wears it more than Keaton did.
Yeah, I've heard different theories on it. I've heard like, oh, this is this did it before the Batman, the whole them trying to figure out the riddles, but like the whole intelligence.
If you have Riddler,
thing.
then yes. Oh yeah. In terms of displaying. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that also too, like you said earlier, with him actually figuring out that was one of the big things. I love the Batman. I think it's out of probably second to this. I've seen the Batman just multiple times. I'll have it on in the background, but
Nice.
I love that Alfred and that actually helps him solve a lot of the stuff. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of a debate about that because other people are just like, Alfred does it for him. I'm just like, Alfred really doesn't do shit if you think about it. Like, he does figure out the cipher, but like Bruce still figures out the next 5 steps.
To kind of give him something, man.
Yeah. I love that there's this bulldog that's been hooked up to the box.
Yeah, it's really weird. Even as a kid, I'm just like, what?
This is there for humor and stuff. Yeah. What I think is weird is that there's this huge green ray that's coming out of the window from every household in Gotham, and nobody's just like, this is fucking weird. We should probably investigate this. Or even Batman at this point is just like, Nigma's up to something because look at all this. This does not look normal.
Have you seen the city? The city's super vibrant and everything. I feel like that probably wouldn't phase him that much at this point.
I guess so, but still, something like Bruce already knew. He already knew that Nigma was working on this stuff and was like tampering with people's brainwaves. So to see this on like a massive scale, it's like there's a scene missing. It's not in any of the scripts of Bruce being, I want that
jacket.
Oh, the sparkly. Yeah. The jogging at night jacket. Yeah.
The one that lights up too.
Yeah. But like, there's no scene of Bruce being like, well, I thought this was a dangerous project. How is the hell is he able to get all this and mass produced? And I feel like there's something weird about this. Like, there is a scene they cut of them investigating the box, but like the contents disintegrate inside of it. And I would have liked something like that because it at least would have shown like Bruce is somewhat suspicious of Nigma during this time. Instead, we kind of had to wait until the party for him to confront him. But at that point, he's already sold so much of this shit that like he's already like a business rival to Wayne Enterprises.
Right. Now I don't know about you, and this is just like a random thing on this. I know it says intruder alert, but as like a kid, the voice sounded really weird, and it might have just been the recording I had. But it sounded like it said intruder Pollock.
Oh, like, I thought that too. Yeah, that too. I don't think I really realized it was intruder alert until Riddler says it.
Yeah, man, he's got those sideburns, those 90s sideburns. This 50-year-old man they have. It's Robin. Yeah,
I do think this movie would have been better with a younger Robin, with like a just get him at it like 18 even. Like he maybe, it's a little older, but when they cast Tom Holland as Spider-Man, like sure he was actually in his early 20s, I think, but he didn't come off like he was in his early 20s. He was able to act younger and act like, okay, this is believably a sophomore in high school or junior in high school, but they just didn't do that at this time, and it's I think it's to the detriment of it because of the fact that it's not just the fact of that like you're used to a younger Robin. I think it's also that Robin in the Schumacher movies is a brat, and a brat's more excusable when you're like 16, 17. When you're 25, close to getting close up there to 30, then you're just like, okay, you're just a piece of shit. Like you're just an asshole. Yeah. At that point, you see it. You're a lot more forgiving when it's a young kid, and it's supposed to be a young kid since it's Robin. So I think that's why it doesn't work, even though I think Chris O'Donnell does what he can with it. He's just given the material that makes him unlikable in this version of Robin.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I know that you can't like really have him as like a kid or anything, or try to pass him off as like the whole like, oh yeah, like he doesn't have anyone now. It's like he has to adopt him, but yet like they have the joke later. It's like, how about Dick Grayson, college student? I'm just like, you can't really really try to pass him off as like adoption age when you're talking about he's in college and stuff.
Yeah, that too. Like it gets messy. So like if you just go younger, it solves a lot of these issues. You get the classic Batman and Robin dynamic, father son stuff. It just would have worked out better. But yeah, Chris O'Donnell, it's not really his fault, really. On that, I get why he was cast. You know, he was a rising star at the time and other things, and so it seemed to fit. But maybe if they had rewritten it where it was a little different, where it wasn't like necessarily adopting him after the deaths of his parents, but it was just like this guy who just then goes out and tries to go after Two-Face, and Bruce knows that pain and tries to mentor him and help him, then that would have been different versus like, I'm going to have you stay at my place and bribe you with burgers and a motorcycle, all that type of stuff. It's like they were trying to add into the traditional Robin elements, but they weren't accounting for how they were changing the traditional Robin elements.
Yeah. I know that I know we're both not really a super fan of this, but Titans, if you were just to cast like and I know the guy that plays Jason Todd is probably around the same age, but just someone who's like you said with the Tom Holland thing, is kind of passable as like a younger kid, or could play like maybe at the most like 14, 15, maybe even 16 if you want to push it a little bit, then like that would be better than like this person who's clearly like
an adult.
Yeah, he's clearly like, they probably, I've heard the joke too, one of my favorite podcasts talked about it, where they were saying like they're close to the age, they probably went to high school together. Like man, I hate how the car looks right here.
The rabbit ears when it's split up. That's why I don't like the split fin. I'm fine with it having a fin. I know Andrew just hates the huge fin. I'm like, I don't necessarily hate it, but it is a little weird. It's that giant, and that it splits like a rabbit. It has rabbit ears like that. But like if it's a smaller fin, then that's classic. That's fine.
No. We got these prostitutes, I guess, like
which then plays weird if you have a Tom Holland type as Dick, to be fair. But also, to be fair, you didn't have to write this in the script.
It's weird. It's a weird scene, even as a kid. I like the neon gang. Like, I think that's a cool element. The dragon, I remember just being like, kind of like thinking I forgot what the guy's name is. It's something dragon though.
Yeah, Don the Dragon.
Yeah,
I think. I
remember being like, just thinking that was cool. I don't know why. Probably because it might not fit, but I know recently they did it's like this Batman comic. It seems like it's kind of in the future. I think Bruce Wayne is supposed to be dead or something, maybe. I don't remember.
Is that Future State?
Either that or Dark Detective, maybe.
Oh yeah. That era. So do they have this type of gang there? The neon guys?
Not really. Just more the aesthetic of it, like the neon kind of.
Yeah.
Like I think it would fit.
It's funny because I remember people are just like, oh, like fuck Schumacher and his like neon Gotham or stuff, and then you cut to the Batman, or just like, we need neon lights to make it feel like. So I'm just like, so neon's acceptable, just not the way that Schumacher did it, I guess, according to those people. But I'm like, look, it fits this version of the city. I think once we got into Nolan territory where it was literally just like, all right, let's shoot on the Chicago street, that's when I really started missing the 90s Gotham aesthetic.
Yeah, it's definitely gone through like an evolution. I think this is definitely one of those soft reboot type things with this movie, before there was like really a term for that.
Yeah, it wasn't even, the reboot wasn't even a thing at this time, but it's a sort of an early version of that, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember this is like one of the scenes that stuck out to me, definitely. Like, I know it's coming up pretty soon, but whenever he kind of gets in the face of Batman and just takes out all his frustration about everything. Like this movie has its moments. He's definitely more, I've heard the criticism before, he's definitely more Jason Todd than he is Dick Grayson.
Yeah. In terms of the rebelliousness, in terms of the origin of Two-Face, and that. So like if you were to replace if you reimagine this with the Jason Todd actor from Titans, it feels like, oh, this fits as like the Jason Todd story, especially this moment right here.
Yeah, he's just it's funny because he's punching exactly where like his arms are. It's not like he's moving his arms or anything. Like he's just hitting both of his like shoulders.
That's true. Yeah, maybe go for the face. Like you're not ready to go out there because you can't fight for shit.
Yeah,
this is probably what Batman should have said. But yeah, we would also probably feel sorry more if that was a kid doing that, you know?
Yeah, it'd be more like, more sympathy instead of like an adult man fighting another adult man in the street.
Yeah, so that's one of the big things. And then it's that aspect. And then I think I've always appreciated Chase Meridian, the idea of the Chase Meridian character. I just think that it's been dated in terms of how much she's just centered around him. Yeah, the execution just being so centered around him. I'm just like, you could have done a lot more subtle ways of doing that than what happened in the Bat Signal scene. And also just the fact that the amount of women I know who are just like, ugh. when she comes on screen, I'm like, that should not be the reaction to the main female character of this movie from where I'm sitting. So I think that I love the idea of it. It's just the execution is very much, yeah, it makes sense because it's 95, but
right.
I'm interested in seeing what they do in these recent comics, where clearly whoever the writer is of this is enough of a fan to carry that character over. So I want to see this reimagined version of Chase, because there's always room for building off interpretation. Batman started off as basically a Shadow ripoff in 39 and didn't have a lot of these other qualities that we associate with him now. So like I'm open to seeing the character evolve past this Nicole Kidman version.
Right. I know that also during this time in the 90s, there was I haven't finished the Nightfall run, but there was a character kind of like similar to this. It's like a doctor type character.
Chandra. Yeah.
Yeah, that he was into.
I thought for some reason, because I was introduced to Nightfall around the same time too. There was like a kids novelization. I got that. It blew my mind too. I'm just like, Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing. There's another Robin. There's a dead Robin too. Like, what the hell? It just
What's
introduced
going
me
on?
to it introduced me to like what was beyond what we had seen in the movies. And I remember seeing Dr. Chandra consolving, and just because of the fact they were both doctors, I'm like, oh, maybe this is what Chase Meridian is based off of. And then, I read through it. I'm just like, oh, this doesn't seem, it seems like their main similarities are love interest and our doctors, but they're very different doctors. And but it would have been interesting,
Yeah.
You would definitely be casting more along the lines of Halle Berry than Nicole Kidman too, if you were going to be doing Chandra, which also could have been interesting, could have been the first African-American female lead in a Batman movie. Before Catwoman.
Yeah, she's great too, by the way. Zoe Kravitz.
Oh yeah. Before Catwoman in the Batman. I was thinking the Halle Berry Catwoman movie.
Oh yeah, no.
Technically, beat that one. Eartha Kitt even before that, but that was TV.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Enigma has his own fake mole to match Wayne's in here because of how much he wants to replicate it.
Yeah, I didn't really pick up on like some of that stuff, but now just watching it as like an adult, like you said, you pick up on like other little things, like he wants to be him so much that he even replicates like even like what some people would consider like imperfections, like a mole on like your face, like he even does that.
Mm-hmm. That's why I also think that this version of the Riddler is underrated. I mean, I guess, okay, so you did your hot take on stuff, but my hot take on this is that I think I like Riddler's origin in Batman Forever more than in the Batman because
wow.
Yeah. Because first off, we get way more Riddler in general of this, but I also think it's just way more personal between Nigma and Batman in this one. Like in the Batman, it was just like, okay, he does look up to him, he's inspired by him, and you need that for the arc that's in that movie. And it works for that movie. But here, but I mean, there wasn't really anything super personal against Batman or even really Bruce Wayne. I mean, yeah, he does go after Bruce Wayne, but there's all those fan theories of the Batman about whether or not Edward Nashton was the son of that reporter who was killed, and the timeline just doesn't match up for that. But that would have made it more personal if we thought that Thomas Wayne killed his father, then that would have made it personal. But it's just kind of like, no, he's just picking Bruce because he's the son of a guy who was corrupt at some point and corrupt people screwed him over, as opposed to this one where it's like it's very much against Bruce Wayne. It's very much him versus Bruce, and there's an explanation for the double identity for Riddler. There's an explanation for the costume is in a practical way where, much like Bruce is both Bruce and Batman, Nigma is Edward Nigma, corporate businessman, and the Riddler at night. Like they have this parallel here that I really love. On top of that, so I think that to me, this is probably still my favorite Riddler origin because I like the personal connection that comes about from it. I like the explanation for the costume that comes out of it. That's, it's not the leprechaun thing from the script, but it's still an explanation that it makes sense that he would disguise himself in the bright green and the mask and the red hair, because he has an actual public persona, as opposed to most versions of the Riddler. Everyone knows it's Nigma. Everyone knows it. Like, there's not really much of a point for him to be wearing it. Here, there's an actual purpose of the costume. So that's my take on it. Doesn't mean that I hate the version of the Batman. I like the version of the Batman. I thought Paul Dano was great in it. But if I were to look in terms of representation of the Riddler character, this one still has a lot going for it that I think people overlook just because they're just like, it's Ace Ventura as the bad guy. Like, you're skipping out on a few things here that they added to it that you've been overlooking just because it's Jim Carrey.
Right. I know that definitely I was thinking about it while you were talking about it, and I feel like he's like a dark mirror image of Bruce, even down to like they look alike kind of thing, and like the whole vibe of like like you said, the personas and like, the whole Riddler thing and the Batman thing. Like, I definitely do think it's like Riddler is who Bruce Wayne would be, I guess, if he didn't have like a moral compass or anything, because both of them are very like smart and intelligent in what they do and everything. And like, it's kind of like, I guess if his parents never got killed and he never like developed
a sense of morality.
Yeah, like he was just all about himself and furthering his own, basically like real life millionaires like Elon Musk and stuff like that. So, But
yeah, I mean, people have brought up how foreshadowing a lot of Nigma's tech here. It's kind of those 3D TVs. There's the whole privacy issue with like the brain sucking stuff. I mean, it's kind of a trip to look at what seems like, this is just some dumb movie from the 90s, but then there's a amount of foreshadowing and some depth to it that people have overlooked. But yeah, I mean, I do. If some people have brought up with Dano as Riddler, to me, if there was any flaw to it, it's that he just was not in it enough. He had like one scene with Batman the whole time, and he's not really there in the third act, as opposed to this one where like Riddler's in this throughout the whole movie. He has scenes with both Bruce Wayne and Batman. He's part of it throughout. So that's why, even though I really like the interpretation in the Batman, I still feel like this is still the top version so far. Out of the two movies.
Right.
If we're including Frank Gorshin in that gets tricky because Gorshin is just iconic. He's the reason why Riddler's even an A-lister. So it's difficult for me to rank them. I think we're just blessed with so many different great Riddlers in general. There's not until we get to the Jared Leto's of Riddlers. So far, I think we've gotten pretty good luck in terms of the different interpretations. Even the one in Gotham, I like Corey Michael Smith in Gotham. I think he was good. I thought the writing was convoluted, but like it was still cool to see a modern traditional Riddler. He had the green outfit, the bowler hat, all that type of stuff. It's kind of like what people point out with Penguin, but same thing with Riddler, where it's sort of wild to see all the different directions you can go with these villains.
Right. I know that definitely with him, I haven't finished the series yet, but one of my favorite things, and I promise we'll get back to what's on the screen, but definitely with him, one of my favorite arcs, I guess, was when they finally discovered it was him doing stuff. There's that moment with them in the snow, where it's him and like, finally he confronts Edward Nigma and he knows like basically he's done all these terrible things. I think that was really cool, and I feel like if they stuck to that, that series
Yeah.
would have been so great if they just focused on like, you don't have Batman yet, just Commissioner Gordon can solve these mysteries and these different crimes until Batman is ready. I feel like it'd be one thing, like just pick a lane. I feel like for the most part, I loved Hugo Strange, but I feel like
Yeah.
it feels like each season they're kind of trying to find out what kind of show they're making. I feel like it doesn't have a consistent, like, from season to season. It might have got better later, but I feel like they didn't really have like a solid, like, this is where we're starting and this is where we're ending type thing.
It's a weird mix of, this is a prequel to Batman. Batman's not here yet. This is Gordon stuff. And then this is stuff. It's a Batman show. It's just not Batman yet. Like it's a weird mix of, right? Because on one hand, like especially season 1, it's like, okay, we're figuring out it's Gordon's story with some of Bruce in it, and then later on they're just like, fuck it. Oswald's calling himself Penguin. The Riddler's the Riddler. Joker's Joker in anything but name. Like it's all there. He's just not Batman yet. All these people show up, but here's the classic part of him coming out of the fire.
Oh, I love this moment. Even as a kid, this is one of my favorite moments. I remember actually getting the haircut. That's one of the moments I remember watching. Just it like stays in my mind. But yeah, like I remember even playing with like, the action figures. Speaking of, I had like, I don't know because I wasn't around, but I know 89 got like a huge like merchandise push. Yeah. But I know with Forever, it definitely did too. And I grew up with like, I had the Two-Face figure. I actually have a funny story with that. My dad's dog bit the foot off the Tommy Lee Jones figure. And so I was really upset. And so my dad, he got me a new Two-Face one. But in the meantime, he actually really appreciated that. I was telling my wife, like, I actually prefer the version he got, but he made out of like duct tape, like a foot for it. Like he rebuilt like a foot for it. So like, I just appreciated that. And I'm like, honestly, I could get the original like figure for it, but if I could find the one with the duct tape foot, that would matter a little bit more. Speaking of
something you associate with your dad. Yeah.
I got this Batman Begins figure. You could see the bite marks kind of in the head.
Oh, damn. I think I have that one. Yeah.
Yep. That's
I had the change Bruce where it's like it's Kilmer, but you put, the Batman cowl and stuff on him and other things, except it's not the suit at all from the movie. It's got like these green wings, and I was just like, weird. What the hell is this? Though as a kid, I'm just like, this is cool. This is what he should have looked like in the movie. And now as an adult, I'm just like, what were they thinking? Just give me what he looks like in the movie. Jesus. So I had that.
Oh, sorry. I think I like this one because it's the closest to the movie. I know back then they like to do a lot more of the variations.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like the classic quick change Bruce, which is what I'm holding up here. I'm like, this is cool, except he never wore anything like this in the movie. It would have been cooler if he was. But, now that t-shirt design has its own legacy to it, and that's also why I wear it. But I think with the Forever one, I had the Bruce Wayne one, and then I had the Riddler one, where he's got like that brain sucking machine, almost like a backpack, and then he does that. So that was cool. I had my Two-Face was like a plastic small figure where he's in a straitjacket and he's just escaped from Arkham, which should have been like the first clue to like the whole Schumacher cut opening type of thing. This image of Nicole Kidman naked on the bed when I was watching this.
I appreciate it.
Someone I know, I think she was like a friend of somebody I was seeing at the time, and she was like, "This is how women sleep."
Just like all spread out,
all spread out on the big bed while like the
makeup's done.
The makeup's done. The clearly the windows are open. Look at that. The drapes.
She makes the bed sheets like a dress almost.
Yeah, just so that Batman can come in through there. Yeah, I mean, if your fantasies are doing it in the bat suit or doing someone who's in a bat suit, then this movie is for you. This scene in particular.
The internet also exists, so I mean, you could also look up. I'm sure there's like like porn parodies you could probably look up too.
Probably more satisfying than this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering that they don't actually get any further than just a kiss here.
That has been so weird. Like when you were telling me about that script where like it's just a mask, I'm like, how would you film that? It's supposed to be more okay for kids. Like McDonald's is gonna be pissed.
They're just like, you didn't like Batman Returns? We got something else for you here. So that's probably why they changed it in the script, honestly. They're just like, yeah, we can't get away with that. Come on. And so they moved the order around and made it like this, where he deliberately, or she doesn't sleep with him because she's in love with Bruce and that type of thing, which then leads into the very memed image of his smile afterwards, which again, like, as in context, it's fine. You know, people are just like, oh, Batman's smiling in this. I'm just like, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense in this context, you know?
I think even my dad noticed that, like growing up. It's like you never really see that, like Batman smiling.
Mm-hmm. So, especially the 90s one, like, sure, like Adam West, it fits that, but especially post Keaton, it wasn't something that you were used to seeing unless Keaton was about to drop you and and blow you up like he did with a strong man.
That's not a smile you want to see.
Yeah. So we've got the Thinkers, which I thought was a nice touch as the parts of the chair on the Riddler's hideout.
For me, being such a Batman Forever fan, I never really even made that connection. That's why I'm glad I got you here, Ben.
We're pointing this stuff out.
Yeah.
Let's see. That image of the bat does. It was the first time that they did the Dark Knight Returns thing, which they carry over to the other interpretations, where like he saw the bat as a boy when he fell into the cave. You know, people credit that to Nolan, but I'm like, yeah, Schumacher did it first. Schumacher did it first in this. Yep. And Snyder arguably kind of does it closer to Schumacher's version in making it happen at the same time as the Wayne funeral.
Terrifying,
which is, and it's not the same comic. I mean, it's not how it was in the comic, but that specific timing is from the Schumacher movie. It's not from the comics, and so I don't think Snyder was necessarily being like, we got to reference Batman Forever in this, but it does have that carryover.
Yeah. I know for me, growing up, and this must show how much I used to watch this movie, a lot of things are starting to make sense. So I had a fear of bats, which now seeing that little image of like the bat flying like that, and then also I think I showed you the trading card before where like that giant bat is looking at Bruce. It makes a lot of sense now.
Comes from this. Yeah, this is a movie where I had seen the trailers, I had remembered certain images, and it was the first time in my life where I noticed stuff that was in the trailer that wasn't in the movie.
Right.
And it kind of led into the fascination that now leads into the show I co-host, you know, on the different things that were cut and original scripts and stuff. I wanted to seek out like what's the stuff, and the idea of watching an alternate version or watching more Batman, you know, deleted scenes where there's like even more stuff that's part of the story. That was fascinating to me. That got me really into that type of stuff.
Yeah.
We got a Halloween set Batman movie before the Batman.
You actually convinced me to buy the Dark Knight that script treatment.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I haven't finished it yet, but it was good so far of what I've read. I know for me, just in general, I think I probably prefer the aesthetics of this movie over probably Batman. It's probably just what I grew up on, though. Like, I don't know. For me, I love Returns because Returns was also that forbidden fruit that I couldn't watch when I was younger. Right. But there's just always a special place in my heart for it. I feel like there's a better version of this movie, but also we've seen other interpretations of this. This movie could have been a lot worse overall.
Yeah. Again, in terms of ranking this, I think I would rank this still more over some of the others, whereas a lot of people tend to put this towards the bottom and stuff, probably because of associations with Schumacher and Batman and Robin. But really, if we take a look at representation of the Batman character, I'm just like, this is still better than a lot of some other stuff, both live action and animated.
Right. Have you seen, I meant to ask you this, have you seen the, I know I've tried to look for it online, the red letter book
Yeah,
cut of this. Have you seen that?
yeah, the Red Book edition. I've seen it. The thing is, they fuck with the color grading so much that it's this is my problem with a lot of fan edits is that if it's
Mhm.
not seamless, if it doesn't look like the movie, then like it just feels very obvious.
Yeah.
And so it's they try to make it look darker, almost like black and whitish. I'm just like, yeah, you didn't need to do that. Like it was fine the way that was. They added some Burton flashbacks to the Death of the Waynes, where I'm just like, I do like that, but like I like how it was done in this one too. So I've seen it. My favorite fan edit of this is called the virtual work print edition, and it's all it is they just seamlessly put in the deleted scenes from before. They might have cut some stuff from the deleted scenes, just to stuff that didn't fit, but overall it's pretty much the same type of stuff. So it's the closest, and even then there's a bit of a jump when you get to the Batcave scene, because you don't know that Bruce has amnesia at that point, because we don't have that deleted scene, and you don't know the whole significance of the journal, because they cut the whole thing about like what he originally thought the journal entry meant. So you're just like, this is kind of a random weird detour of getting into the Batcave.
Yeah, like that was something I even noticed as a kid. Like it was just one of those things where I'm like, I guess they're just flashing back to like his parents' like funeral and everything, which to be fair, it's something we've never seen before in live action or anything.
Mhm.
So like fair enough, but like without the context, it's almost like you probably could have just cut this part and it would have been fine.
Yeah, because it's just like, oh, I keep having these dreams, and then the payoff is like, this is how I became Batman. I'm like, okay, so the payoff of this is the very obvious origin story
Yeah.
of what happened. And I'm just like, yes, I've been burying this image of seeing the bat in the cave, and it's just like, okay, but we already know you're Batman. It doesn't give us any new information other
Yeah,
than like
exactly.
in this continuity, this is where he saw the bat. I'm like, okay, I guess that's cool, but yeah, I just didn't. I didn't really understand the significance either, because it just falls flat in this version. It doesn't pay off what it was originally written to pay off. So then it's just kind of this weird subplot that doesn't tell you anything new.
They did really good casting with the younger version of
Oh
Val
yeah,
Kilmer here.
it
Like
does
he
look like
looks
him. Yeah.
a lot like him. Yeah.
Mhm.
I hate that you don't see the giant, and I know like people have made fun of it. I know, speaking of Mr. Sunday movies, and he made fun of whenever he's got his arms outstretched like this, and they
Oh,
start
in the
playing,
deleted scene.
yeah, start playing some romantic music behind it or something.
It's again, it's context.
Yeah,
Like
that's
it
true.
is. It's when you realize that is the moment where he's sort of having to let go of the trauma in a way, or overcoming some part of it. That's what makes that scene such a special one.
Yeah.
Special one to me as a Batman fan, but also as a fan of this movie, where I'm just like, yeah, I'd love to see. Like, to me, the Schumacher cut basically just needs to have those two scenes that have not been released, which are the basically saying the payoff of this flashback was supposed to be reading the journal and believing, based off of reading the journal, that he was responsible for his parents' death. And then you would need the other part about the amnesia in order to make that Batcave part make sense. Everything else, I can pretty much take it or leave it. Excuse me. Like the whole like ending at the end, where it was originally a different shot of Batman and Robin on the rooftop. Looks cool. Do I need it? Not really.
It would have been better, in my opinion, if I know they kind of like, I know you've seen this deleted scene, obviously, where it's like, does it ever end? Like, I like that. But
Mhm.
if instead of like the framing of them standing like this with like their arms like on their shoulders, if it was more of a replication of the first movie where it like pans up and then it's like them from like behind with like their capes flowing, like I
Mhm.
think that would have probably been better than what they did. Like it's, I don't know. I think they made the right choice ultimately, but you
Yeah,
know.
with the running towards, I'm just like, I was fine with the silhouettes running. There's a bit. Some people are just like, it's like the '60s show and running. I'm just like, you know what? This is a modern version of the '60s show anyway, so it's not really that out of place, and it looks cool. Like it was Schumacher's stamp was ending it with those silhouettes running towards us from the bat signal, while Burton ended with the whole like rooftop shot with the bat
Right.
signal. It's fine. That those are the signature endings for both of those directors, and I think it works, but I don't necessarily need to see that end the whole thing. I just want the subplot to be restored, and if they add in some of the other stuff, then fine. But I'd like to see it reordered to the original cut too. as well, so it doesn't seem weird. It doesn't seem like Chase Meridian's booty call was responsible for Riddler's origin. But those are pretty much the main things. There are different flaws as well to this movie. I'm sure some people would be like, maybe cut how many times Two-Face flips the coin in here, so it doesn't seem like he's just trying to get the scarred side. But I'm like, that's a small thing, but do you really need to? Like, you would have to cut those parts out and then figure out re-editing the score at the same time. I'm like, this is a lot of work just to cut out something that, I think most people watching this are not really going to give a shit about.
Yeah.
It's only really hardcore Two-Face fans.
And I think it's also, like you said before, where I think people are expecting something like radically dark and everything without, it's same thing with that Tim Burton interview we're talking about. It's like, you have to think about context. And so some of those deleted scenes and some of those things that people think are going to like radically like make the movie more dark and crazy, like it might just be more scenes similar to this tone where it gives more context and stuff, but it might be like similar to this tone. It'd be more weird if it was just like super dark and everything else was like this.
Because like this is still the movie. This is still going to be in it. Like this, what he's going to say here with the whole joygasm thing, that's still going to be in the movie.
Hey, I like the joygasm part.
I know, right? But you get what I mean. Like, it's not going to automatically delete the cheesier moments or the comedic moments. They're still going to be there. It's just there's some scenes that are darker that would be put back in, but the other stuff, that's still going to be there. Tommy Lee Jones' performance as Two-Face is not going to be that much different. It's just going to be him in more scenes.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I do. Okay, so here's another thing about this Two-Face. If I'm going to go with hot take of it.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron Eckhart, hands down, obviously the best Harvey Dent. Two-Face, though, he didn't really do much.
He's not really Two-Face in those movies.
He's not really Two-Face at the end of that. I mean, Tommy Lee Jones, it's not how I would do Two-Face. I'm not saying he's the greatest Two-Face ever, but Tommy Lee Jones has a lot more of the traditional Two-Face elements than Aaron Eckhart ever did, and it's not Eckhart's fault either. It's just because Eckhart had like 10 minutes of being Two-Face and all he wanted to do was punish Jim Gordon, as opposed to here we've got a Two-Face who does the like two related crime, the two themed crimes on the stuff. He's a major threat. He's been around for a while. Has the traditional courtroom origin. He lasts long enough to kill Robin's parents and have that whole rivalry with Robin. There's a lot more comic book Two-Face type stuff with this version than with Eckhart. The main issue is that people just didn't like the how much he hammed it up on it, which I think is fair. But in terms of the way that there's stuff that's written in it, I don't think there's a version of this where Two-Face would have really been done justice the way that we want him to, in terms of exploring the depth of that. I think he had to suffer.
You got to realize what movie you're in, though, too. Like I said before, like it is what it is.
Yeah. I think, because I've been going back and forth on this, I think there's just no way to do the whole like Harvey Dent, he was my friend, and have that type of depth that they had in The Dark Knight when he had that turn and how tragic that was. There just wasn't really a way to fit that in this movie when you already got Riddler and Robin's origin and Bruce figuring out his own origin, plus the Chase Meridian subplot. Like Two-Face is at the very bottom of priorities at that point. In which case, like, you kind of just, he's in there because you needed another villain because the studio wanted another villain. And he's in there because Two-Face fits the theme of duality that they wanted. But it's not really going to explore Two-Face any more than just him fulfilling that role. Where's that coming from? He sounds drunk in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Where's that coming from?
Do you think if this movie was made today, they probably would have had like the light up like Riddler jacket and like some of the other elements? I feel like that's much more of a thing now.
I would see that at Hot Topic. Yeah. You would see that. You would see that all over the place. Some
version of it. Yeah,
it'd be that, as well as like maybe like some sort of version of the Two-Face outfit. They'd be different variations. I'd love to see that being sold. Like I still would love to walk into a place that has like retro Batman merchandise type stuff. Maybe not stuff that was
The Joker leather jacket. I've
Yeah,
always
Joker.
wanted that. Yeah.
Those Joker leather jackets, batarangs from this era specifically, like it would. I'd love to see it. Whether or not they would make a ton of money is a whole other thing. I know we would be
Yeah.
the customers for that, but I don't know about most of the general public who, to them, the Batman movies are the Chris Nolan ones. They're not necessarily these 90s ones, even though these are the ones that we grew up on.
Yeah.
Enigma.
Edward Nigma. This is the part that was just like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't really like about this version of the Riddler is that he mainly leaves riddles for Bruce Wayne, not for Batman. And the riddles are clues to his identity at some point. So I guess he just wants Bruce to figure out at some point that it's him, as opposed to like the traditional idea of him leaving them for. There's the ass shot.
Yeah, that was weird. Like there was like a weird, like they made a crack in the ass too. That was kind of weird.
Just in case I have to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alfred.
It's like, what did Christian Bale tell
Make sure there's a zipper in the suit.
Yeah. Well, it looks like he had some sort of zipper or something in there.
Yeah. So this is also, I didn't realize this until later on when we was doing the Michael Goff Alfred, but Michael Goff's Alfred never really he was never in the same room as Bruce when he was in the Batsuit in the Burton movies. When it was Batman Returns, they would communicate, but like Batman would be in the Batmobile, he was in the Batcave, like that type of stuff. But I think this is the first time that in this movie earlier when he changes, that's the first time we see Michael Goff on screen next to a Batman in the Schumacher movies. So right. I thought that was kind of cool, but I didn't realize that was an opportunity he didn't really get in the Burton ones.
Right. I know definitely just speaking of like just growing up, I guess like psychologically ingrained with me. I remember this part where like I think it's Robin screams like woohoo like that. I remember going down like water slides and doing like what he's doing right now, like Carowinds and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just
awesome.
Like, yeah. I prefer the original Batwing to this. Just
same.
From an aesthetic standpoint, but this one isn't that bad, I guess.
This one is number 2.
Yeah,
this one would be number 2. Yeah,
I don't love the one from BVS.
I don't love it either, but I still rank it above the one from Dark Knight Rises because I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
It's a crab.
when they first announced it, like I call it the Bat. This is Morgan Freeman. I'm like, why? It doesn't look like one. It doesn't look like one at all. They went so far into like the functional aesthetic that it looked like a parody of a real life aircraft because like it's supposed to be functional. I'm just like, this does not even look like a real life thing. Like at least with the Snyder one, they did the route in the Snyder one that I thought they should have done for Dark Knight Rises, where it's just like, okay, it's a stealth fighter with kind of a bat theme to it. It's more muted compared to the ones in these 90s ones, but
right.
You can kind of see the realism mixed with Batman. But like, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking for Dark Knight Rises. I got a gift. Hopefully they won't listen to this. I got a gift of that toy from somebody, and I'm just like, this is going for Toys at Tots because I'm not keeping this.
It's the tumbler. It's basically like Sky Tumbler. That's what it is.
I excuse the tumbler a little more just because of nostalgia. I think for Batman Begins and stuff, as well as like kind of the Bat aesthetic that we talked about in the Batmobiles episode, but the Bat, I'm just like, fuck no, that's not the Batwing. Yeah. That's an immediate like no, and I'm usually pretty forgiving about these different vehicles. I pretty much like every Batmobile to some extent, but like that Batwing, I'm like no,
terrible.
Yeah. You suck my battleship, which I think Andrew might have brought this up or something, but like I'm surprised there wasn't a Batman Forever battleship tie-in.
That's what I was about to ask. Like
I don't think they did it.
Wow, it must have been just him ad-libbing or something, man.
I mean, they are literally playing Battleship to destroy it, but like, imagine how, especially because this was a big movie at the time. These days, people laugh at it, but like in '95, this is one of the big.
Oh, it's like
that was a blockbuster. Yeah. So like, this would have definitely been a hit at the time. I didn't even have Battleship growing up, but I would probably want to ask my parents to get it for me if there was a Batman Forever one, so you could pretend to be Two-Face and Riddler with your friends, blowing up the different parts of the Claw Island, so you can take out the Batmobile and the Batboat.
Yeah. Well, people like to forget that I didn't necessarily see. I don't even remember if I saw Batman and Robin in theaters, but I definitely do know the hype was there. I think I was too
Mhm.
young to see this movie in theaters, but I do know that I told you earlier that I like the Viewmaster for it, and I was just so like I was so psyched for the Batman and Robin movie. I had the that action figure of Mr.
Mhm.
Freeze, where it's that blue, the blue kind of one where it's got the little goggles and everything
Yeah,
and the pale
yeah, I had that
skin.
too. Mhm.
I'd put him in the freezer, kind of make him cold or whatever.
Oh man, yeah, I didn't do that, but I had the Batman and Robin popsicles type of thing, and those lasted. It was a Costco brand too, so you can imagine how huge the box was. That
Yeah.
lasted like pretty much a year on that because there were just so many of them, and they had different flavors. The blue one was obviously Mr. Freeze. There was like a red one for Robin. It was a time. I'd love to. I mean, I don't know how good they would be, but if they reissued those and made new ones, I'd love to have them again, just to have that taste of nostalgia. Of course, they had the holy catchphrase that they added in here.
Yeah. This I don't know. Like it
Keep the 66 aesthetic, or not aesthetic, but the feel of it, I think, is what they thought, or have something to it. I think they
didn't
wanted.
need this.
They didn't, but it kind of fits this movie, as opposed to like it would be weird in the Batman.
Well, yeah.
Like I'm fine with there being I'd be fine with there being a Robin in the Batman, but if they try to do this whole like holy rusted metal Batman in that one, I'd be like, I don't know, that's not really what you established. I get why you did it, so
right.
Yeah, this is the one interpretation where I'm just like, yeah, you can pretty much get away with it.
It's weird, right? Because like I was telling my wife about this. So like all the other Batmans, other than like obviously this one before, I couldn't really see a Robin with them. But weirdly, I guess it's because of all the stuff with like the kid and the Batman.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see a Robin being in that movie and it not feeling weird. They would have to definitely walk a tightrope of like realism with it. But like I could definitely see a Robin in those movies.
I think it's also because of the fact that the Pattinson story, is about becoming a symbol of hope and inspiring other people, and not just being a guy who beats people up and breaking their bones. I think it's that aspect too that lends itself so that by the time you get to that end, you're like, okay, I could see that, as well as the fact that like this movie, they're just like, we're bringing in a whole bunch of comic book characters. We're bringing in Catwoman, Riddler, Penguin, and they've all been reimagined, so it's a little easier to imagine sort of a classic scenario with Robin, as opposed to maybe in the past where, you watch Batman Begins, you're just like, I don't know if they're going to bring Robin into this type of thing.
They do, but it's not great.
Nope. Nope.
I remember this scene too. Like,
I'd rather see you in jail. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's that much of a hot take to say that this did Robin better than The Dark Knight Rises. I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I thought he did well for what it was written. I just remember in the theater when they did that, and I was like, this does not feel like a Christopher Nolan thing anymore at this point. This feels like one of those when they did the Robin reveal at the end. I'm just like, really, you had to do it that way, Like, why don't just call him Tim Drake and then have him like in disguise with like a green raincoat or something, like something,
right,
to make her like a quote unquote realistic Robin or so, rather than like have him just be a cop that you're wondering why is he such a big character and how come he knows what he's doing better than Batman in this movie, and then at the end being like, he's Robin. Yeah, I remember the opening of one of the trailers being this riddle me this, riddle me that. I was just so psyched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that speaking of just like other interpretations or ways they could have gone with the Nolan trilogy, just do it Beware the Batman did. They had Barbara Gordon in that play like the kind of Oracle character and it fit with that series. Just have, if you don't want to go full like costumes and everything, just have her be like, or have even Tim Drake be like a tech guy that he occasionally deploys in the field.
Oh yeah. I think that's another thing that they could have done in it. But I mean, if you're if they're going to cap it at like 3 movies, they had enough going on.
Right.
They're just like, we want to do No Man's Land and Nightfall, and I'm just like, then you've already failed.
Yeah.
You can't do both of those at the same time. But I say that as we watch this movie that did Riddler's origin, Robin's origin, introduced Two-Face, reviewed Batman's origin. Like, this stuff started getting really packed, starting with this one.
Well, the Returns was kind of overstuffed a little bit too, from my memory.
Yeah, a little bit. I feel like it's more so once we start getting into this. I think it just depends on how well you balance these characters out. Because I mean, clearly you got 3. You got Catwoman, Riddler, and Penguin in the Batman, and I don't think there was. Maybe it's because there's an overall feeling that like everyone, this is the pilot for everybody in the Batman. You kind of excuse it because they're gonna. It feels like they're all gonna come back, as opposed to these where it's just they're more one-offs. This is your one shot at Riddler. Jim Carrey's probably not going to come back after this one, even though they keep him alive. That type of stuff. It felt more like, we got to stop this shit with as much as possible.
Right.
They're not really setting anything up.
Yeah, this whole thing with like the whole sadistic choice thing doesn't like, if you actually sit down and think about it, doesn't make any logical sense how he's able to save both of them.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun of the superhero. The way that Schumacher saw this, because thematically it's about him balancing both sides, so he has to save both in order to represent that, which I appreciated. But is it realistic? No, but it's a Schumacher Batman movie.
Fair enough. They do have a bunch of neon gangs and a bunch of like it's like literally a watery death trap. So I mean, activated
by a button on the guy's key.
I kind of, that's the one thing I will say I kind of do missed with Paul Dano's interpretation. There was no like cane or anything, or like kind of like, I don't know, like he could have used that. That would have been kind of cool if he used that to beat the guy to death at the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah, that's true. That too, yeah, that would have been cool. I think it's wishful thinking that if he comes back, that he would be in something slightly more traditional in it. But there's also kind of potentially room for it, considering that everyone knows who he is now. Like beforehand, when he was, in the Batman earlier, he was disguised with that mask. But now people kind of already know who he is. So he could just go unmasked, but in like a green suit or something. That's a possibility. Or he's just going to go back to what it was in the first one, which I guess is fine. But it would be cool to see an evolution, especially because Matt Reeves keeps talking about like they're going to evolve more into the comic book characters. I'm like, okay, jury's still out on that. But if you're going to say that, then let's see that. Oh, and here we got the first lenses in the Bat-Cowl pre-Dark Knight.
Did it first,
as well as the whole choice between having to save 2 people, except things go very differently in the Dark Knight on that end.
And 90s audience weren't ready for that yet, but your kids are going to love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole thing with like, what do you think? Like earlier you mentioned the whole like green rays thing and how Batman didn't see it. Do you think that's just for the benefit of the audience, or do you think that that's actually visible?
That's a good point. I think it's supposed to be visible.
Okay.
But okay, here we go. He's leaping down. Oh yeah. Everyone's weight is relying on that small little batarang.
Yeah, a little flimsy. That's the 90s. It's okay. They made movies like, I feel like movies started just really getting dark in the later 2000s. I feel like 90s movies have definitely different vibe. Like I said earlier, you probably didn't make this kind of movie these days.
There's also a factor here when he catches Robin, the whole thing about like, oh, my father would always be there to catch me type of thing.
I never even noticed that. That's great.
Yeah, I don't think I noticed that either until like a viewing a couple years ago when someone mentioned that. And I was like, you know what? That's why they did that. It makes sense. Or we're just really looking into it. But I do think that it's somewhat intentional, because otherwise, why would they have so much about, Robin talking about his dad that way earlier? So
a little from column A and a little from column B.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, that's another thing where I'm like, I'm kind of glad that if there's one upside to Chris O'Donnell's casting, it's that the costume fits an adult man. It's a little weird when you have an anatomically correct costume like that with the nipples on a
The
16
curve too, if you've never noticed the the curve with this.
You can definitely see that the crack has been carved into that ass when the cape goes up after Batman catches him.
Yeah, and I'm just like, why'd you have to make it so realistic with like the cod piece too? I'm like, you guys could have kind of skimped out a little bit on that. It's like, this is a kid's movie, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I don't blame Batman for throwing the coins, but when Two-Face falls, like
no one's gonna catch him.
this is automatically better if they do the whole Bat Bolo thing, you know, like Robin catches him. That's going to fulfill the arc. That's like the natural way to end this. It just makes it I think even as a kid, I thought this was messy because I'm just like, wait, you spent the whole movie saying, you know, don't kill Two-Face. And then Batman decides, I won't let you kill him because I'm going to kill him.
Right.
Like that's how it comes across, even though like I can see where like Batman probably didn't think that was going to lead to Two-Face's death. He just wanted to get the coin out of the way. But again, he does not catch him. He does not, and he has plenty of gadgets. We saw that. He has no qualms about catching people and saving their lives. So that definitely would have elevated the movie if they went through with that theme where like Robin gets to capture Two-Face. He gets to prove that he's not going to succumb to vengeance. He's going to throw him in jail, as he said earlier.
Yeah. Well, I forget which I don't know if it was an All-Star or in maybe one of the cartoon adaptations, but I remember there's a scene kind of similar to what you're talking about where like he has the opportunity to take vengeance on Tony Zuko and he instead decides he wants him to go to jail, and like Batman just kind of has a reaction like he was fully prepared to let the guy if Dick Grayson needed to do that, like he was going to kind of stand back, but like he chose instead just to send him to jail. It's kind of like a reflection moment, I think, even for Batman. So
yeah, and I think it's where he proves himself to be Batman's partner at that point, where it's just like if you are able to resist that, and if you are able to put yourself to a higher purpose, then you belong in my world, and if you don't do that, then you don't, pretty much. Right. The first time we saw Arkham Asylum,
it looks great.
It's great. It's we gave this the S tier for as we ranked the Arkham Asylums. It's never been topped and stuff. I think Matt Reeves might have an opportunity with the Arkham Asylum show, but it's not going to beat this art design. You know, I don't see the whole haunted house mansion, a place of healing, as Zach joked on our show. But the haunted house type aesthetic that they went with is very much in keeping it with the 90s. And now these days, I think people want something that's a little bit closer to what a real mental hospital would look like. But there's a nice gothic feel to this. Like I feel like this is what the exterior at least is exactly what Burton would have gone with if he decided to do Arkham Asylum.
Right. I know definitely for me, I prefer, like you said, the more gothic thing. It's even worse if you see the Arkham Asylum video game, how that one looks versus even this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that more. I think it distinguishes it more because I know Nolan did the Arkham Asylum stuff and it just kind of looked like a generic, like almost like a prison. I didn't really care for that much.
Yeah, I didn't. And I think that that's kind of the main reason why in a lot of our rankings, the 90s stuff just always sweeps everything when it comes to art direction. It was there. And I get Nolan's aesthetic was meant to be realistic. It was meant to show a real city, but it was very unmemorable in those movies in terms of what that type of stuff looked like. So I do appreciate in a way that each movie has its own ups and downs in terms of like, this is where it's got like S tier level stuff. And here's where it could use some more work, you know, like in some cases it's like great writing, but you know, not so much with the design of the Batmobile or something, you know?
Yeah. I don't remember. I know they did Arkham Asylum and the Batman, but I don't really remember what that one looked like that much.
You didn't see the exterior, and it was all just the inside of it. It has room to grow, but I mean, we're not going to have a ranking for that one until we actually see the TV show, I think, because it's just, we can't really judge it based off of what little we saw. At least in Begins, we had like the exterior, we had a whole sequence, a couple action sequences in it. Like we got a good look at it and had no idea that was the only time we were going to see Arkham Asylum in the entire trilogy. Sadly, that was a missed opportunity. Right. And then now we have the U2 music, which I I got the Batman Forever soundtrack as a kid, and I was expecting when you put it in that we would hear the Danny Elfman theme. Because again, this is before I saw the movie, and I knew it was before I knew Elliot Goldenhall. And instead, this song comes up. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I cried. I wanted my Danny Elfman soundtrack, which I wouldn't get for like another, I don't know, like 5 years or so. But here we are at the credits.
Yep. I guess let's go ahead and cut this off right here. I'm gonna just cut the movie off, but we'll go ahead and do our little outros and everything.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, it's funny because also just speaking of, we paused it now, but speaking of the VHS, I think my grandma couldn't be bothered with like the end credits. I think like as soon as the movie was over, like it immediately just cut off. I think it's like 5 seconds. You heard the song's like ooh, and then like it immediately just cut off right there. I guess she couldn't be bothered with.
It's like, yeah, he got the important parts.
Yeah, he doesn't need to hear this music. But yeah, yeah, I definitely appreciate having you on. I was a little worried at first because I was like, I never talked to somebody for 2 full hours on the show. I've done commentaries, but
I see. Yeah,
we have the breaks in between. But like, I'm like, I don't know if I have that much to say about this movie, but we managed. So
Oh yeah, well I have like 10 hours of content on this movie. So like,
I forgot I was talking
if we include the Patreon. So I'm just like, if you want me to just talk about anything we're seeing, I can do that for you if need be. So yeah, this was definitely fun. I'm glad that I was able to re-experience. I've been watching a lot of the virtual war print cut actually, rather than the theatrical one. So
is that available? Like, I guess we could talk off mic about that. Is that like available?
I'll see if I can hook you up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Off mic, guys.
It is a fan edit, by the way. So this is not me promoting any piracy here. This is a fan edit. But yeah, I'll see what I can do about getting you with that one. But it's cool to kind of sit back and watch the like streamlined version of it. Just get right to the action in the very beginning. I think that's the main strength that this cut has over the other one, is that it's kind of like it's a slow build to get to that action sequence in the first like 10 minutes, as opposed to this one where you're just like, you're right in the Batcave. He's Batman. I'll get drive through. Goes off and stops Two-Face.
McDonald's promo right out the gate. Hope you're happy with us, McDonald's.
I couldn't believe that was in the movie when I saw that even at 7. I was like, what? I thought that was just in the commercial.
A lot of people have said that. I heard a podcast where they even said that. I remember, speaking of Batman 89, where they had you mentioned the Diet Coke thing. I got the old VHS of it. That was the first time I actually watched it other than on Cartoon Network. I remember you gotta watch Batman with the Warner Brothers ball cap.
Yeah, watch a Warner Brothers movie without Warner Brothers ball cap.
Yeah, it's like, what?
Now I have to go to YouTube to watch that before watching the movie.
Yeah, and then the Diet Coke one too. It's like, we've run out of our last Diet Coke.
This black car would be rather difficult to miss.
Yeah,
gentleman is on his way.
It's the other car.
Yes.
But yeah, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Thanks again, Ben. I'll include a link to your show, Superhero Stuff You Should Know. You should check it out. I'm a big fan. It's great to have you on again, and I promise to have more stuff up soon, guys. It's been really busy, but
awesome.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you guys next time. This is Alex.
This is Ben,
and this has been What Mean.